Will the princes clash over their beloved mother, Princess Diana?
And why Meghan Markle is thirsting over Prince Harry. Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, your go-to for insight and opinion on two of the most talked about royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here in California.
And over in the UK, where I think our heat wave is finally going to come to an end. I've been sweltering in my garden. Everything looks like a desert. But I do have some news about the Prince and Princess of Wales from the United Kingdom.
I love it. I mean, all of the headlines over the weekend were these gorgeous pictures of the Wales family. They were seen traveling together in their cars as they departed Balmoral, their usual summer retreat. It was on Sunday where Prince William, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and their three gorgeous babies, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, were photographed on their way to church service. The family was accompanied by King Charles and Queen Camilla, and of course, Princess Anne. They arrived in separate vehicles, but attending Sunday church service is a long-standing tradition for the royal family. And I've heard that after Catherine's cancer, she's become more spiritual. Are you hearing that on your side of the pond?
Well, I think probably it concentrates the mind, doesn't it? If you get a life-threatening condition, you are likely to probably think you're assessing your own mortality and what that means, and whatever direction that takes. And so maybe in her, it's for her, it may have been some form of comfort to ease her through her treatment, whatever it was. A lot of it's not unusual. So to hear that, you'd be going, well, that's not a surprise because I'm sure it's a, a discussion point for many that people then reassess their own mortality. So I wouldn't say that's a total surprise. To see them going to church is probably it's the nearest thing to a semi-public appearance. And bearing in mind this is them on their holidays, we tend to see the King will turn up at the Braemar Games as the late Queen used to, or some Highland Games, to see people, as they say, tossing the caber or and doing other such things. A bit of an eye roll from you, but if you've seen it, it's
Tossing the caber. I was like, oh,
have you seen it? Have you seen it? Do you know
I
what I'm
think
talking
I
about?
saw the cute guy from Outlander cover it. Sam, he plays Jamie in the show Outlander. He did a show where they toured Scotland. It's like where they take a big log and toss it, right? Is that
Oh, basically, big log and see how far, and then you've got to make it fall over. So, and Highland Games, no, they're a great Scottish tradition. I always used to go to the Oban Highland Games in August when I spent my summers up in Oban. So, to see the royal family going to church on a Sunday, it's a way of, obviously we haven't got pictures of Kate outside the car, and then everyone's suddenly getting excited about the change of hair color. People saying the sun's dyed it. I mean, I haven't look. I am so out of my comfort zone as to whether she's dyed her hair, whether her hair has been bleached because she's been in the sun, sweltering in Greece or wherever they've been for their summer holiday. And in this country, where we seem to have had, temperatures in the high 70s and 80s throughout, and she may have been out in the garden. I have no idea. You may be better qualified to know whether that she has gone to visit somebody, but let's be honest, it's through a window, so and maybe a bit of sun may just have lightened the colour. That's as far as I'm going to go with that one. But actually, the more serious point, if your initial question about the spirituality, I think that is something that a lot of cancer sufferers or anyone going through serious illness does reassess where they are in the grand scheme of things, and maybe that their faith starts to reveal itself in whichever direction they want to go. In her case, presumably, it is the Christian faith that she alluding to going to church, bearing in mind her father is a very strong believer as well, and so father-in-law, I should say. So I have to say, no surprise there.
Yeah, I mean, I always am interested in this story or this direction that the Prince and Princess of Wales are hopefully heading, because I've always been a little brokenhearted over the idea that Prince William is not necessarily as invested as his father is, as his mother was. His mother was incredibly spiritually curious. Um, and, as the head of the church, you want him to be a faithful person.
Well, this is the big dilemma, let's be honest, amongst his generation. I'm putting myself slightly older. Um, you know, church attendances plummet in this country. The role of the Anglican Church. We haven't got an Archbishop of Canterbury at the moment, so we're a sort of which the King is head of the church. So shows we're that's the problem. The Christian faith in this country. No, we're supposed to be a royal podcast. I'm not going to discuss the merits of the state of the Anglican Church because I'm deeply unqualified. But what I would say, it behoves when he becomes king, that is part of his duty, is to be the head of the Anglican Church and the head of the Church of Scotland. I mean, I had the chance to go around St Giles Cathedral the other day when I was in Edinburgh, and it's the most fantastic venue, which you would have seen during the coronation. I don't know whether you've been to Edinburgh, but the symbolism of the monarchy, it is part of their role within this country to be ahead of the faith. And that's why there are very different services. The Church of Scotland, the Anglican Church, there are these, that's why he's head of two denominations. But for William, I'm sure it's something that I'm sure he'll be searching how his role within that as king, and it's all part of his process of how he adopts when people might suggest that he's not the most how's the best way to describe it?
Well, I've
His
heard that
faith is
he was not as curious as his father was and as emotionally invested. But I will say, Katie Nichols specifically told me that both William and Catherine have pursued spirituality, have pursued something bigger in the devastation of her cancer diagnosis, that he had a lot of questions and that he has sought answers through the book. And so I think that to see them at church, it's uplifting for me, because there was that question for years over whether he was as committed to faith as his father was.
and
And
just like
the queen is second.
oh,
Queen Elizabeth. I
you,
mean,
you couldn't question her faith was her driving force and her sense of service to the understanding the bigger picture, you know, that was her role. I think just like as I said with Catherine, that she is assessed. For William, it probably has brought it into focus too, because he's got his father and his wife both going through this. So then you can't get away from it. So then you do, and inevitably we'll be talking about the bigger picture. And then to see in his case, it does require where does his role within his future position as king, will his faith manifest itself going ahead? So lots of questions and deep questions for him to resolve, which, we how we see it work out, we know not.
yeah. I mean,
And
but I
but
think I really admire him and I trust him in that direction. I had somebody ask me recently if I'd noticed an increase in criticism towards Prince William in the last few weeks. I have.
um,
There was an
I
entire
think
there's an entire episode of a competing show that tore into him and people were angry about it. Well, do you have an opinion
well,
there? What's going on?
last week didn't we talk about the VJ parade? That he's got to be careful of his PR. And, yes, lots of families go through dealing with illness, but, you probably still have the show has to go on. And I think that is some of the issues. Forget the moving into Forest Lodge and everything. That's perfectly normal. He's upscaling.
His children are
And
going to be teenagers.
yeah, oh, teenage. So let's get on. And we know that then people have been moved out of the cottage because that's for security reasons, because it may have some vulnerabilities in that area. So, and by all accounts, that's all been managed within. May have been surprised, but at the same time, it's been managed. So that I don't even. That's not even a discussion point. What is a discussion point is that the king does need support.
Yeah.
And his holidays had 8 weeks. You know, lots of people are juggling summer holidays, working parents. How do we flip and flop? We still got to go out to work and we're earning. So I think there are some areas where he's just got to think, right, it's about being seen. The Queen always said, you've got to be seen. So it's all right. You may be planning how to help out the homeless and doing lots of stuff behind the scenes, but in a way, driving to church, well, they're on their holidays. What we need to see him is back out on the road again and to just keep any fires doused that may be out there. I am sure his heart's in the right place, but you always got to be aware that you're not always going to get a free pass.
Well, my argument
And
to you last week was that I felt like the king was trying to the king was working strategically on his legacy. There's a clock ticking and it's unrelated to his
yeah,
cancer and it's related to the fact that he became a monarch so later in life. And so that he's got that working against him. And an article was published by Robert Hardman over the weekend that led me to believe that a little bit more, that one of the reasons that the palace was so appalled by Prince Harry's BBC interview is because the king's team has a very strict strategy in place for how they don't want him to be seen as a weak man. They want him to be the face in the in the mix.
oh,
And so that is why I and for Prince William and his family, he's going to be a monarch much faster than the king became a monarch. And so I do give him grace in wanting to spend this time with his children while they're small. And there's probably a bit of anxiety hovering over that family that any minute now their life could change dramatically.
oh, I couldn't agree more. And forget just with the king, because we don't really know. Kate looks fine in those pictures, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes. You can slap on the makeup and can cover up a multitude of sins, in terms of, where is she at? So for them as a family, he's got huge things to think about, and it's the bigger picture. And so I'm sure the palace as a whole are deep in discussion. And I get your point about Harry sort of saying, I don't know how long my father's got to live, and sort of just throwing a sort of hand grenade out there. And you go, oh, goodness me. But the problem is we've spoken about it enough. He's only concerned about himself.
Yeah.
That's the problem there. So, you can nip that one and say, what's going on here. It's actually, at the moment, he has a fractured relationship with his father. He's got a fractured, well, completely severed relationship with his brother. And as a result, he never thinks before he speaks
Yeah.
because
Unfortunately, though, the American media eat it up because the second
well,
that interview was over, I had to do interviews about Prince Harry wants reconciliation. He just accused this family of trying to have him murdered, basically. Like
oh,
at one point he said, that there were forces out to get them or something. And then within the same breath, he's like, yes, I'd love to reconcile with my family. And so what American media takes away is, oh, Prince Harry's so lonely over here in the States, which
oh,
I think is probably true. But I don't think that he knows better than to think that a sit down with the BBC where he verbally vomits is going to be the entryway into a royal reconciliation. American media is just so stupid sometimes.
well, no, hang on. I think the media is, at times they go for the easy clickbait headline. Let's be honest, it's what goes on. In Harry's case, he is lonely, but it's of his own doing. We don't need to, we can go over old ground here, but he's created the loneliness. And as a result, he's feeling bereft, rudderless. And so him saying this is almost trying, I don't know whether it's his way of pleading, but the royal family in this country aren't darling every day and saying, "Come on, Harry." They need him to put the olive branch out and make it look like he actually means it. And at the moment, that's not happening. But for William and the King, this presumably this might be great fun. I'm sure running around Balmoral where they're having a great family time. And how different is that to Harry, who has not got that chance of having some lovely time in the beautiful Scottish countryside. And no, I'm not working for the Scottish Tourist Board. The fact is, they will be the children. If my child is anything to go by, Scottish summers, if it's not raining, are absolutely magical. And if you have the chance, and obviously as a king and the family, to live somewhere like Balmoral, you're in a pretty good you're on a pretty good wicket to have a great deal of fun. So
Yeah,
I do hope
Meghan did
that the
not grow
Williams.
Meghan did not grow up around cousins. Meghan doesn't realize what it's like to have these like almost siblings or, close enough to
Yeah.
be siblings with slumber parties, waking up and, the chaos in the kitchen when it's breakfast
Uh,
time. And Harry does it. And not only is Harry missing his siblings in the adult world, but his children don't have cousins. They don't have cousins. Don't you? Doesn't that just like break your heart for them?
well, I mean, I've got a younger brother, but the best time I had were with my three cousins of my age, and we had the most Christmases and everything. It was, they were my second cousin, and we had magical times. So I absolutely know what that feels like, and I'm sure there are so many families that is just so normal. But for Harry, he's will be missing out on that. Meghan, probably the last thing she wants to be doing is putting on a deerstalker and yomping across the Scottish countryside. Um, you know, but then, and I'm sure the king is, and he might be stumbling across walkers. Wasn't there that video of him suddenly walking across parts of Balmoral, and then suddenly three walkers go, "Oh, there's the king," you
Yeah.
know, which was, and then he's talking. They're all talking about the beauty of the Scottish countryside. So, for Harry, that's what he's missing out on. Summer holidays where they're all, clearly they've all got the room. Look, they're living in a way that none of us really fully understand. It's a lifestyle, but the family, the firm, come together in Scotland, and it's about the children. I remember when they did the royal family documentary in 1968. I
Hmm.
don't know whether you've ever seen that
I
one.
did. I saw it.
Uh,
I know it's illegal. I saw it.
well, and 19, well, I remember it being filmed when I was at school.
Yeah.
So and we talked about that before, but you saw the Queen and Prince Philip barbecuing, with the family in the Scotland to show that they were behaving like any other family, having a barbecue, messing up the sausages, or whatever, and the man inevitably thinking he's suddenly a cordon bleu cook as he ruins and char grills the chicken. Well, I'm maybe speaking from experience here. I don't know what your barbecue skills are like, but mine are pretty Richard. I do have a wife who won't let me anywhere near the barbecue because obviously, being from Boston, that's all she did every summer when she was young.
Yeah.
So I digress, but that's what Harry's missing is the family bond, and that church service symbolized the royal family coming together and having, of course they get together at Christmas, they get together at Easter, but the summer holiday is almost like come up for a week and we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Christmases. What are we going to watch? Megan pour a box of Chex Mix, already mixed Chex Mix into a clean
Oh,
bowl and
could
call it
you?
an event?
You make me hyperventilate with the thought. So sorry. Move on. I'm sure you've got other topics to talk about, but the
We
Christmas
do.
special. Can we talk about that nearer the time when we
Yes.
where we can really hyperventilate at the prospect of what we're being told? Because we've actually, as we record this, got to get through another series of Forever. So
Yeah.
or no, what is it? We'd love
We
Megan.
love
So
Megan.
we got to get through another series of that. So you've leapt to the Christmas special already. So oh help me God.
We'll stay on Harry and William in the sense that Tom Sykes posted a story over the weekend. Friends fear William and Harry's toxic feud could drive them to make rival documentaries about Diana. This one really riled you up. So, the Daily
Yeah.
Beast claims that Prince Harry and William could both be planning to make documentaries about their mother, Diana. Representatives for Prince Harry's Archwell production company are talking to TV executives about a new documentary on Diana. Fun fact, I reported this in 2023. to Fox News. It's out there. If you'd like to check me, the receipts are there. To mark the 30th anniversary of her death, Prince William will surely be uneasy about Harry claiming her legacy and will feel bound to respond with his own contribution if Harry goes ahead, a source said. Now, Daily Beast talked to one senior executive at an independent production house in the UK, and they said Harry is looking to do a series about Diana in 2027. They want to get the right partners, and we have had a conversation with him. I'm sure other production companies have too. An inside account of the implosion of Charles and Diana's marriage and Harry's story on Diana's death, which there's the concern, because I said to Sally Bedell Smith, Harry has a completely different version of Diana than probably the reality is. He has built this myth around her mother Teresa 2.0. Is he going to mention the 200 times or 300 times she called and hung up on her art dealer boyfriend who was married? I mean, he always talks about her like she's such a saint. I think it would be historically inaccurate and full of paranoia. And then I want to there's other details. If it matters, I'll get into it. But I love this quote from the Daily Beast. William might see Diana as a figure to be memorialized in bronze and in carefully controlled broadcasts, but Harry sees her as a symbol validating his own rebellion. And I thought, preach. That is so true.
And money.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, because there's not much else he's got to sell. Right. We know he's looking for something that's going to attract eyeballs. So if he can then do the look at my poor mother, who was a PR control, she knew exactly what was doing. Now, breakup of the marriage, horrible. Whatever you stand, it wasn't a good time. The royal family were having a pretty torrid time, and it wasn't the king's finest hour either. And when you've got a family breakup in that kind of circumstances, and then it's followed by her death in very tragic circumstances, with everything that has gone with that, it's it's the only thing Harry's got left to sell,
Yeah, and they
I think.
needed to secure another Netflix contract.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
needed to secure another Netflix.
and let's be honest, if whatever comes out, it will attract eyeballs.
Even if it is historically inaccurate. Do you remember when he
Ah,
spoke to Oprah Winfrey? It is an Apple Plus documentary, and he tells Oprah Winfrey that he is experiencing with Meghan the same racism that his mother experienced with Jodie. I'm sorry. But maybe
no, no,
people
no, 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 don't go
did not want you to be with Dodie because his father was raping,
the
sexually assaulting his employees at Harrods. Dodie was a cokehead who was engaged to an actress at the time that he met you. I mean, there is a full list of why people didn't want his
I know,
mother.
I know, and Mohammed Al Fayed encourages because it suddenly made it look good within the establishment and covered up his own problems. And there's no two ways about it. That relationship was always doomed to failure, and there was pressure. He was Mohammed Al Fayed was putting pressure on his son. Look, the circumstances of the death are horrendous. It didn't help that in the subsequently, the driver has been found to have been over the limit, and it horrible set of circumstances. But we cannot rewrite Mohammed Al Fayed and Dodi Fayed as this was the love of her life. It certainly was not. There may have been others, and Diana, obviously we're around about the time of her death in 1997 as we record this. The memories are always going to be raw for the family. And as a 37-year-old woman as she was at the time, that is a life cut far too short. But the circumstance, she was an incredibly clever once, because remember, she got married at 19. Then she's just a sort of wide-eyed, slightly bewildered, wondering what the hell's going on. But she grew up incredibly quickly, and she went through an awful lot. And I'm not saying it was an easy ride, but in the early 90s, when the marriage was falling apart, she was a brilliant user of the media. She was absolutely sensational at it. And, the black dress. End of. Great moment. She knew how to upstage every member of the royal family. Looked good, got the press were on her side, didn't have to, say boo to a goose, and they were running around her. The royal family were the bête noire, because obviously, what's going on here? What's Charles playing at? I mean, it was the royal family were at a low ebb then, and if we get all that coming out, and Harry's look, he has been traumatized for that all his life. That has left a scar on him. We can't get away from that. And he has been left reeling. But I just think now he's getting to the stage where, how much more? What do we need to do? What are we trying to do with this? What's Diana's legacy? She's the mother of two princes. She did an awful lot of good work. What are they going to bring up?
Right. Well, and
Uh,
when you said we can't make them this a love story, like it's always been my understanding that she was trying to make has Dr. Khan jealous that he calls her like the day she dies and says come home because he's seeing all the media coverage of her with Dodie and he can't stand it. So I've always thought that Dodie was just a way for Diana to make Dr. Khan jealous, who I do think she was crazy about. In this article, the friend of William and Harry says the film the brothers made for the 20th anniversary was meant to be the last word. William made that very clear at the time. But of course, things have changed since then. Not the quote, but to quote you, money. And
yeah.
back to the quote, if Harry is now going to do another massive Netflix show, effectively claiming her legacy, William will have to fight back, whether that's with an interview or a documentary of his own. The whole situation is very sad. And then the last point is Harry has every incentive to turn Diana into an icon of rebellion, positioning her as another royal crushed by the same forces he and Meghan claim to have escaped, a figure whose spirit justifies their departure. I do see this. I mean, I said this for forever now that Harry and Meghan just tearing at Diana's legacy to justify their own actions.
Yeah, I'm afraid this is what they're using Diana as the, everything is comparing and Harry's fixation, and that's what, everything is so any trouble that goes to Meghan, he compares to his mother, but he's not actually realizing that a lot of the trouble is of his wife's own doing. So forget his mother, you know. So he's that just puts him in a troubled soul scenario. And what else has he got to do? So it's an easy thing for him. Let's do a documentary about my mother. We'll make sure it shows the evil British press and the royal family
The
in a
men in
bad
gray
light.
suits, the men in gray
Yeah,
suits. Yeah.
and the royal family will be seen in a bad light, particularly his father,
Mm.
who through the divorce clearly is not going to come out with, anything other than a bad view of what went on at the time. And it wasn't the king's finest hour, but you'd name me a breakup that is anyone's finest hour. But obviously, this was in the full glare of publicity. It was, they'd be going on a state visit, and you could see the body language between the pair of them was as, frosty as the Antarctic. So, this is the, that's the problem. If you start going out once again, it's the royal family who will be the villains of the piece,
And how
and the
ruthless with his dad having cancer, Rupert. This is ruthless. I mean, why make your dad's twilight years on this earth a living hell? Something that, thanks to Harry, we know his dad specifically asked him not to do. His dad said, please don't make my life a living hell. And that's at the beginning of Spare. And he made the Queen's life a living hell, and he made Prince Philip's life a living hell. What was your reaction to Harry having a friend leave the wreath on VJ Day? To me, it was just a PR stunt. I've heard other people go, he misses that. He misses that purpose in his life. He misses the life of service. But to me, it was just a way to try to erase the hurt he did towards the end of Prince Philip's life, lying in that hospital bed while Harry and Meghan are doing an Oprah Winfrey interview.
I think the problem is he does miss the military was important to him, and I get all that, and I have a degree of sympathy in that area. That military was probably the one time that he felt appreciated in the service family uh, within the army, and I think he was that has a very fond memories for him, and I think it was his happy place, and he was respected and got on with that world. So I understand, but unfortunately, he is now a bit part player in that area. Now, the VJ parade, yes, to send a message, but again, it feels there's always a sense that this is a bit of desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know maybe a bit strong, but it's well, I'm not, but you're not part of it anymore. Yes, he's a member of the royal family. You can't get away from that. But why does he feel the need to do that? Um, it just shows that what are you doing? You're trying to, you still want this half in, half out role.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not happening.
Mm-mm.
So he misses. And this is when you get back to the nuts and bolts of it, that's what he's missing is being member of the royal family. Yes, it comes with some downsides, but actually in his life, it could have just been one big giant tick. It could have been because he wouldn't be having to think about how am I making money because he's not got the capacity to do that.
Does
That's
it,
not in his DNA.
no.
Um,
Does it surprise you that there are reports circulating that he was disappointed that no one called to acknowledge that from the royal family, that he felt like he was doing something good and he was disappointed no one called to thank him for the wreath?
but well, but why should they?
Yeah.
It's just why should they? What's the point? He's done it. Yeah, I mean, will it achieve it? Because he's then going to go, look, they love me.
Yeah.
He's going to blab.
Yeah.
So they know, don't say anything. Yes, if he wants to, well, we put up with it. So there's nothing to be gained, from the royal family communicating anything about what they think, even if in a form of saying, well, he's done that, because then that will be blown up out of all proportions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, the
yes.
royal reconciliation is happening because someone acknowledged his
Mm,
wreath. Yeah. I had somebody say, like, is this an olive branch? Is this a step close to it in Australia? And I said, well, first of all, you just described it as a secret note. And if you and I are
mm,
talking about it, there's no secret there.
no.
Okay. What if you could delay your next two mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those two payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt. You need to call American Financing today before you get to a point where you can't make those payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees. And their customers are saving an average of $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget this summer. Call before it's too late. 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201, or visit americanfinancing.net/unfiltered. I can't believe we're going back to Princess Diana, but we are. And in this
Yeah.
case, it involves both of the boys because I think that this is incredibly unfair to both brothers. A new series, I mean, I could puke right now. Entertainment guru Rod Gunner, whose friendship with the princess was forged when he organized her Concert for Hope fundraiser in 1993, and Patrick Jepson, her private secretary from 1988 to 1996, are working on a new series. And the title is currently called Phoenix, and they're casting right now for the part of Princess Diana. They're casting for the girl that plays her daughter. Filming is expected to begin at around Christmas time. And here's the plot, and get your barf bag ready. Over in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm from, by the way, a
Yeah.
harassed 64-year-old British socialite despairs that her wayward daughter has become a law unto herself. Along with the challenges of motherhood, she endures a relationship with a duplicitous U.S. tycoon, while over in Britain, she has two distant but beloved grown up sons and an ex husband, King Charles. Her sons are dutiful princes in this fictional what if. Harry doesn't meet Meghan, but the suitability of his alternative bride is no less scrutinized, nor is William's nice wife, Kate Middleton. Mr. Gunner said, nobody has tried to put Diana back into our lives for good freaking reason. Also, what about Spencer? What about the crown? I'm getting plenty of Princess Diana, no, Diana on Broadway,
Yeah.
which is exactly what we're looking to do with this project. So it's a what if series where Diana's living in Phoenix, Arizona with a daughter who has a drug problem. I mean, get the F out of here, Rupert. Is this, and Patrick Jepson should be ashamed of himself.
Back to money. Let's be honest. People think it'll sell. And okay, we saw The Crown, which is a factionalized version of the royal family, given the Hollywood treatment. It was successful. Now they're looking to do something else. A what if about, sorry, and it sounds like a glorified soap opera.
And isn't it cruel to do to William and Harry? I mean,
Oh,
I don't have a lot of sympathy for Harry ever, but this is kind of sick to me.
well, it's just a money-making exercise. So we want to, we're sort of speculating. Well, you're speculating that she's got a nutty daughter who's off her rocker. I mean, I'm sorry, it's soap opera
Yeah.
using the plot of the fact that she was the ex-wife of the future King of England, and okay, they get divorced, and now she ends up with some two bits, JR, from Dallas, Larry Hagman character who treats her, badly. And now she's got a daughter I mean, the whole thing is just, I mean, no, no. When you sent me that, I hadn't read it until you sent me what we're going to talk about. And I read it, the article, with my jaw dropped, thinking, what?
Yeah.
Are people that desperate to make something using Diana's name? I mean, at least if you're going to give Harry credit, at least he's the son of, and
Mm,
he's doing something to try and reflect what's going on.
yeah, well,
But I
that's
have to
nice. I
say,
still
this
think
is,
he's trying to make a quick buck, but okay.
well, no, yeah, okay. Well, I'm just trying to go back on myself. I use the word money. No, both of them are money making schemes.
Yeah.
And hiding behind. And Patrick Jepson, yes, he may have been a very loyal um, assistant to Diana, and I get all that. In his name, he would have known everything far better. I never want Peter Burrell. I mean, he is just a.
Paul. Paul.
Or Paul Burrell, Peter Burrell. Actually, Peter Burrell's
You're like,
someone I
that's
actually
actually a very nice guy.
I do it all the time. Poor old Peter Burrell, if you're watching this. I didn't mean to link you with Paul Burrell, but Paul Burrell, I mean, give me strength. I mean, I'm sorry. He's wheeled out, but Patrick Jepson, you actually feel would know the diaries and everything that was going on and was having to deal in a much more hands-on way, the sort of fallout of everything. But I am somewhat surprised when I read that name that he's consulting. Well, it's a bit hard to consult. You're just basically coming up with a sort of storyline
And
that she's,
executive producing. And I mean, he's
yeah.
all over it. It's so disappointing to me. It's so vulgar. You just said
Mm.
your wife's binging The Summer I Turned Pretty. That is my
Oh,
happy place. There's no way I'm going to sit down and enjoy I
oh,
like an escape. I love an escape. And I would just be so turned off at this what if, and it's not the first time that this has been done because I have a Diana podcast and blog, and people have tried to pitch me their short films about what ifs about
yeah.
Diana, and I've always been like, ew, no, I won't even give them the time of day. I won't give them the PR or the press. So I just think that this is so gross, and I think it's so unfair to do to not only William and Harry, but Princess Charlotte and Prince George and Prince Louis.
Oh, I just think it's wrong. Look, I mean, I knew her. As you know, I shared a goddaughter with her. So, I mean, it's not as if, but I just think, sadly, what happened was a tragedy.
Mhm.
Just leave well alone. Let's not have Hollywood try, and let's not sugarcoat it in any other way. It's a money-making exercise. They think they can come up. Oh, and yes, it probably will watch. Yeah, but if it gets figures like Summer That I Turned Pretty, which has my wife has just been turning into a binge, and you suddenly said to me before, are you a Conrad or are you a team, whatever it is? I think she's Conrad, but I don't know whether I've alienated it. I have no idea now what I'm talking about.
I'm a Conrad girl for sure.
Okay. I'm going around Edinburgh and I see Netflix. It's all over the place. It's obviously the hottest thing. So, and this leads me on. If we just move on from
Let's
this
transition.
Diana
Let's
film,
transition. Yes.
I'm transitioning to the fact that when Netflix get it right, they put a lot of money behind things now, and I don't know when they made this program, they
Well,
thought,
I'm gonna say this that The Summer I Turned Pretty is Amazon Prime, but
mm,
Netflix does put a lot of effort into the projects that they are
mm,
emotionally connected
mm,
to. For
yeah,
instance, the Harry and Meghan initial docuseries had
yeah.
billboards throughout the city of Los Angeles. Um, they haven't done that yet. I do think Meghan's With Love Meghan 2 was seen in Times Square too, on a digital billboard. So we'll have to investigate and see if they're doing similar.
Well, I must admit, I on my Netflix stream, I get things coming up. There's a big film come out of a whodunit novel, which has a stellar cast of British acting alumni of a certain vintage. Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, Ben Kingsley. We've got the stellar cast of British, and it's all over my feed about you've got to watch it from Thursday this week. Right, okay, fine. And I'm sure I will. But what I haven't seen on my feed is anything about With Love Meghan. And I'm thinking, that doesn't feel, given I watched the first one, and these algorithms, which again I'm not really understanding, I would have thought I would have seen quite a lot of saying, get ready for the big launch of season two, because that's what they do in these things.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, I know the way these firms work. If they get a hit, they give it the full Monty. It's almost your feeling with this, it's launching, but they're sheepishly launching it.
On a
And the
Tuesday.
only
On a Tuesday.
and, and the only person who's making sure that people know is the lady in question.
Hey, well, you know what? I think that Netflix is probably thrilled about that because how many interviews did Harry do for Polo? Was it how many times did Harry post about the Polo? Oh, zero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it
but
was rubbish.
yeah, oh, I'm sure that they're thrilled that Meghan's actually acknowledging it because Harry and Meghan would show up to promote Paramount red carpets, for the Bob
Mm.
Marley movie, but they didn't show up to promote they didn't show up to
Has she
support
not been
any
on?
of Netflix's other series. Well, let's talk about why we're mentioning this. This is our final story.
Yeah.
Meghan's thirst over Prince Harry and surfing video. Daily Beast suggests that this post is for two reasons: to shut down separation rumors and to subtly promote season 2 of With Love Netflix through her husband. The only reason any of us care about this woman. Do you agree with the Daily Beast that that's why we got this video of Harry surfing?
Well, it was trying to pretend that he's living his best life. No, it all looks pretty good. I mean, he's a
At a
40-year-old
surfing
man.
camp because he's a grown up at surfing camp.
Yeah, and fair dues, he's having fun. I mean, that's what you do when you're on holiday, but he seems to be on a permanent holiday. And yes, it is all, of course, she's done all these interviews about, the Fox and all that stuff that she's married to the saucy minx that is Prince Harry. So I don't know what the subplot is. She's got to find every way to get out messages. Obviously, we last week were dissecting worms, weren't we, or something that we saw in
We were bisecting worms. Yes. Did you
bisecting worms
did
and
you notice how she used Salt and Pepper's "What a Man," which is you're not going to probably be. This is not in your wheelhouse, but "What a
yeah.
Man" is the lyrics are "What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man." And if you're on,
So they went on a limb there.
well,
That's
if you're
Shakespearean. That's like a sonnet. What a man! What a man! What a man! What a mighty good man! what a man. I'm
If you're
sorry, they really went out on a limb there, didn't they?
Well, if you're on like Royal Watch, like if you're in the algorithm of Royal Watchers,
Yeah,
we use that, and I'm guilty of it too. We use that song for Prince William religiously and have for years. And it's just like, does this woman ever have an original thought? But I think that and tell me if you disagree with me, and you might. I think this video of Harry surfing backfired. I do think she's trying to say, look at how happy and carefree in California our lives are. I think she's also trying to say, watch with love, Meghan too. Another, it's
yeah,
California vibes. But the palace PR machine played a huge role in shaping Harry's public image. In the early 2000s, Harry was tabloid gold. Vegas strip pool photos, questionable Halloween costumes, heavy, heavy drinking stories. The palace pivoted hard with Harry. His military service was emphasized, and he did serve and he put himself at risk. But the PR spin heightened, bravely
yeah,
while downplaying any controversy, like when his deployment had been cut short once it was leaked, or he called a friend a nickname, a racist nickname he
yeah.
shouldn't have called him. Beyond Harry's military career, which you've acknowledged, and I know my audience doesn't think much of, but we have to acknowledge it here. He seemed passionate about humanitarian work. In 2006, he founded Cenobale, one of his biggest achievements before Meghan, the Invictus Games. Cenobale and Invictus were absolutely meaningful initiatives, but the Palace PR framed them as Harry's passion projects, and they carefully showcased him as this compassionate and hands-on projects. I think that it helps to balance out the wild child reputation, but doesn't it make you sad that now he's just a stoner who's surfing in California compared to that old, that old Harry that the palace painted so perfectly?
Meghan spends most of her time, me thinks she does protest too much. She tries too hard. Everything is about, look, we are the perfect marriage. We've got everything, which is fine, but we know that they live a gilded life and they can afford to have everything on their terms. And I balk half of the time at how hard she is trying to come across as this style icon. Aren't we going to be seeing clothes in this series where, they're not the Primarks of this world? It's going to be fashion items worth 2,500 quid. It's going to be sort of an unreal look while she's messing up spaghetti, or something. I just feel that she tries too hard. And Harry, yes, go surfing. That's what you do in California. It looked as, I don't know, I'm sure it's not, but it had a touch of the AI about it. It looked to me, everything, the waves were the most beautiful waves I've
Well,
ever
it's
seen
because
in my life.
he was at a surfing camp. Those are man-made waves.
Oh, oh, well,
Or a
that could be.
machine. Those were machine-made waves. He's at a surfing camp where like he's being
Oh,
taught by
right.
somebody
I
in
didn't
a
know that. Well, I didn't know there was such a thing, but then that's because I live in the heart of the Cotswolds, where we're struggling to find surfing wave machines. So I can assure you. Um, well, look, he's gone to California. He's got to look like he's having fun, and going to a
See,
surfing
I mean,
camp.
I would rather him look like he's not quitting on Cenobale or hiding behind the African Parks charity scandal. I think he looks like a shell of himself, and he doesn't look
Oh,
like the respectable man that married Meghan Markle at St. George's Chapel. I think he's a grown baby. He's got Peter Pan syndrome. And I think that the palace did him way too many favors by painting him as somebody that he clearly truly isn't.
well, this is the problem. He's a rudderless individual. He doesn't know what he wants. His wife is plowing ahead doing her thing, whether good, bad, or indifferent, but she's determined to make a go of it. That's her prerogative, that's her right, and but she will stand or fall by that. But she cannot be seen to suddenly completely, totally ignore that Harry isn't, her husband, because without him, she is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Without the title, she is nothing. And that is the issue for her. She has to make sure that she acknowledges him every so often, to prove that without him, look, we are a happy couple. but actually I'm going to kick ahead. But if I don't, then the being Duchess of Sussex is irrelevant because she's just trying to be a successful female entrepreneur.
Influencer,
Uh,
influencer,
well,
influencer.
whatever it is, whatever the phrase, but basically she wants to make money,
Yeah.
right? So
Ag-
it doesn't matter. You can call her influencer or anything. She basically wants to make money, and she says, right, influencing, Instagram, you name it, TV series. This is all part of her, trying to seem that she is relevant. But as we know, we're going to have a fun pack week this week. So, oh, look, your eyes have gone again. But for Harry, I hope he had a wonderful surfing course. Now I look forward to seeing him going off to Hawaii and doing some of the big monsters or whatever you do in surfing speak, away from a sort of controlled environment, if that's what happened. But for Meghan, well, it's going to be an interesting week, and I'm sure when we're back next, we'll have plenty of time to reflect on that. But
I will. Can I
I
can
hope.
I ask you before we go, talking about Meghan, talking
Mm.
about the lead up, I can tell you that there's in my opinion, based on my experience, a lot less interest from the media. I mean, I'm not having people say, "Hey, at 1 a.m., we want to
Oh,
talk about, everything that Meghan's new show." Like, I'm not seeing that this
well,
time around.
you and I both. We
Yeah,
work for the same organization, and
yeah,
I've got this. Last time it was like, "Are you on standby?"
yeah.
But now it's a complete level of indifference, and that goes back to my point that there's not been the PR. We've not seen her doing the talk show rounds. Of course, she's not going to do any talk show rounds in this country, but has she appeared on a talk show
Like Drew
in the
Barrymore
States?
last time. She did Drew
Yeah.
Barrymore last time around. No, she hasn't. That doesn't mean she won't, but she certainly hasn't. Yeah, I'm just really getting the vibe that people don't care anymore. And to me, it feels too soon after the last one. Doesn't it feel
Oh,
like it's come out way too soon after the last? And I know that they filmed them back to back, but it's like, what's the strategy here? Is it that if she does not have product available to pair with what we see on the screen, that's completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable because maybe I can justify releasing it so quickly if she's going to have the product to pair with what we see on the screen on asever.com. But if she's just releasing this to get it out there and get it over with, girlfriend, you are lost.
well, and she's also got to prove that she's cooking something that's a bit more interesting than putting some pasta in a bowl.
Yeah. Or pretzels in a bag.
There were pretzels in a bag, elevated with some flour sprinkles.
Oh God.
But, oh God. But let's let's be proved wrong.
Yeah. We'll see. All right,
We'll see.
agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Will you be watching With Love Meghan season 2? We'd like to know that as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. Rupert, thanks for your time. And thank you for letting me know that you're also Team Conrad.
Well, I've got to have no, no, I'm not. I
Yes,
have
you
no
are.
idea.
You would
But
be if
is
you were,
but
you would be.
is my wife completely right to be Team Conrad?
Yes.
Because what's wrong with
What a
the other
jerk.
guy? What's wrong with the other guy?
He cheated on Belly and Cabo.
On this note, look forward to speaking to you next week.
Well, actually, you're going to be on Royally Unfiltered this week with your Meghan Markle recap. So,
Oh, yes. Look forward to that. Thank you.
I'll see you soon, Rupert. Bye.